We're going to talk about the churches of Romanesque Burgundy in France. We're going to talk about the churches of St. Peter and Paul at Cluny, usually just known as Saint-Pierre or St. Peter. The church of Saint-Lazare or St. Lazarus at Autun, and the church of Mary Magdalene, Santa Madeleine in Vézelay. First, we will talk about the monastery at Saint-Pierre-Cluny was a Benedictine monastery. It was founded in 909 on land that was donated by Duke William of Aquitaine, and it grew to be the largest, most powerful, and extremely influential monastery in Europe. And this pertains to art as well as to church matters. It began with 70 monks who wished to follow the strict rule of Saint Benedict. The Duke waived his feudal rights, and the monks were subject only to the Pope. The Cluniac reform spread. They founded many new daughter houses. They reformed older monasteries, including Saint-Pierre at Moissac. And all of these daughter houses answered to the abbot of Cluny, who was the central authority. And remember, the abbot of Cluny answers only to the Pope, so he was extremely powerful. At Cluny, there's an emphasis on scholarly labor. It became the intellectual center of Western Europe and was especially known for its music and purity of liturgy. Architecturally, there are 3 successive churches, all dedicated to Saints Peter and Paul, and they're known as Cluny I, Cluny II, and Cluny III. We will emphasize the largest and most important, Cluny III. Abbot Berno, B-E-R-N-O, founded Cluny I. We don't know too much about that church. It's said to be small, about 100 feet long, and barn-like, which presumably means that it was a very simple basilica. One of the notable abbots from the early 10th century was Abbot Odo, who was later canonized as Saint Odo, and he reigned as abbot from 927 to 942 or 44. He was a poet and musician. He set the Psalms to music. He wrote a treatise on music called the Dialogus de Musica. He developed a system of musical notation, which is one of the earliest forms of writing down musical notes. Under his reign, there was the expansion of the Cluniac reforms to daughter houses, including the reform of Monte Cassino in Italy, which is very important because Monte Cassino was the monastery founded by Saint Benedict, and it's the home of Western monasticism. Under abbots, and I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, M-A-Y-E-U-L, Mayul, 954 to 994. Cluny II was erected, and he was followed by Odilo, known as Saint Odila, from 994 to 1049. Odila is known as the empire builder of the Cluniac order. His successor was Abbot Hugh of Semur, who became Saint Hugh, and he was the abbot from 1049 to 1109. During this period was the height of Cluny's political power. Abbot Hugh mediated in imperial and papal disputes. One of his benefactors was King Alfonso VI of Castile. And at that time, there were 300 monks at Cluny, which is probably the largest monastery ever, or I shouldn't say ever, but in the Middle Ages. Coming from Cluny were also popes, people who trained at Cluny, who were Cluniac monks. Pope Gregory VII, he was pope from 1073 to 93, and he was known as a reformer pope. And Urban II, who is the Pope who preached the First Crusade in 1095 and 1096. The Church of Cluny, well, first let's talk about the Church of Cluny II, we're looking at right now. It was begun sometime between 940 and 960, so I just put a circa 950 date there, and it was dedicated in 981. What you see is essentially, it looks sort of a simple basilica with embellishments. So basically you have a basilica church, longitudinal, with a transept, side aisle on either side. And there are several notable features about this. One is that it has an elongated apse, and you will see this fairly frequently in monastery churches because they need to have extra room for the monks. And of course it is in the extended apse, or the choir, which is where the monks, the choir of monks, they would say, that's not necessarily singing, although here they did chant, the Gregorian chant. And so here they are seated in this elongated apse. And you'll see that there's one large apse with two smaller ones on either side. And then you have a transept. And then at the western end, the entrance end, you have a two-tower facade that is fairly elaborate. And this comes to be called the Galilee Porch. But it's Cluny III that we really want to emphasize, because this becomes the largest monastery in Christendom. The largest monastery, and not just the largest monastery, excuse me, the largest church in the world. From when it was erected, the late 11th, early 12th century, up until the erection of the new Church of St. Peter's, which of course is the present church that was erected during the 16th and 17th century. So this is a very important church. And it all comes down to a dream. At least that's the story. That Gunzo, who was an old paralyzed monk, he's in the infirmary, and he has a dream. And in the dream, St. Peter commands him to tell the monastery's abbot, who is St. Hugh, that he must build a new church. And Peter says that if Gonzo fails to do this, he says if Gonzo does this, Gonzo will be cured of his paralysis. But if Hugh fails to build the church, Hugh will be struck down with Gonzo's illness. Now, whether that's exactly what happened or not, we don't know, but that is the story as recorded. The person who we think may have designed Cluny was a canon, Hizelo, who was a mathematician. Of course, we don't know exactly, but that's the theory anyway. Now, most of Cluny, as large and powerful it was, most of it has been destroyed. It was demolished at the time of the French Revolution. It was literally sold for building blocks and torn down for construction material. The only thing that survives of the architecture is the south transept, which you're looking at here, including the tower of the south transept. But if you look at this image, you will see that it once was part of a very large and powerful monastery. And we talked about monasteries before, the idea that you need to have a self-sufficient monastery. And of course, this one was very, very powerful and very, very large. They owned tremendous lands. Serfs worked the lands for them. The monks went about their scholarly labors. And of course, there were all of these lanes, as you can see, that are needed. The very large church, the cloister, the refectory, and of course infirmaries, places to create goods.